Welcome, my dear listener. Tonight, let's unravel a mystery you may not have thought about before. Every breath you take, every drop of water you drink, every meal that nourishes your body, all of it connects back to one quiet source of life. The problem we're solving tonight is simple, yet profound. We live busy lives, often forgetting the invisible helpers that make survival possible. Without them, human life could not exist. So let us drift gently into a story of patience, sunlight, and green silence, as we discover how plants make life possible. As you close your eyes and settle into the stillness of this moment, take a slow, steady breath. Inhale deeply, let the air fill your lungs, and exhale gently. With every breath, you are experiencing a silent gift, one so constant and so reliable that most of us never stop to question it. The invisible air around us is made of many gases, but the one that matters most for our survival is oxygen. Without it, life as we know it would vanish in a matter of minutes. And yet, few of us pause to consider where this oxygen comes from, or who the quiet architects of this life-giving atmosphere truly are. The answer, of course, lies in the world of plants, the silent breath givers, tirelessly creating the air that sustains not just humans, but almost every living creature on Earth. Imagine a time before plants. If you traveled back billions of years, Earth would look and feel nothing like the planet you know now. The skies were not blue, but hazy and harsh, filled with toxic gases like methane and carbon dioxide. Breathing would not have been possible for you. Oxygen, the gas that is so essential to your body, was only present in trace amounts. Life then was limited to tiny, microscopic organisms living in oceans, fighting for survival in a world that seemed barren and hostile. It was in this setting that some of Earth's earliest plant-like beings, cyanobacteria, often called blue-green algae, began to perform a miraculous process. Through photosynthesis, they captured sunlight and water and carbon dioxide, and, in return, they produced oxygen as a byproduct. At first, it was only a trickle of oxygen, seeping into the air and dissolving into the seas. But over millions of years, this trickle became a flood, slowly transforming the atmosphere into one that could support the complex, oxygen-breathing life we are part of today. When you take in your next breath, you are part of a rhythm that began more than 2 billion years ago. The oxygen filling your chest is not eternal. It has been freshly made, recycled, and renewed by the green world around you. Every tree, every blade of grass, every delicate fern, and even the tiniest floating algae in the ocean are all participating in this vast, silent process. About half of the oxygen in the atmosphere comes from plants on land, forests, jungles, and grasslands, while the other half comes from the ocean, where countless microscopic phytoplankton carry out photosynthesis in the depths of water. So, the air you breathe in now may have traveled across forests, over the ocean waves, or drifted through meadows before reaching you. It is fascinating to think about how effortless this exchange is. Plants do not charge for their work. They do not demand recognition. They simply stand in the sunlight, rooted in silence, carrying out the ancient chemistry that sustains life. As humans, we often design machines to solve problems: ventilators for breathing, purifiers for cleaning the air, but no human invention compares to the quiet sophistication of a leaf. Inside each leaf are tiny green factories, packed with chlorophyll, the pigment that captures sunlight. With this energy, the leaf rearranges molecules of water and carbon dioxide, breaking them down and building them into new forms. The result is simple sugars, which fuel the plant's own growth, and oxygen, which escapes into the atmosphere like a generous gift to the world. This constant generosity is what allows your body to keep functioning, breath after breath, without interruption. Consider your own body for a moment. Every cell inside you depends on oxygen. From the beating of your heart to the firing of your brain's neurons, oxygen is the fuel that allows your internal machinery to work. Yet oxygen is not stored in abundance. You cannot keep days' worth of it inside you. Instead, you live on a continuous stream of supply, a river of invisible gas flowing into you and out of you, sustained by the silent activity of plants. This Relationship between humans and plants is an unspoken partnership. You exhale carbon dioxide, and they inhale it. They exhale oxygen, and you inhale it. It is a perfect cycle of exchange, a dialogue between species that requires no words, no noise, and no recognition, only the steady rhythm of life. Forests, in particular, are like great lungs of the planet. Walk into a forest and feel the coolness of the air, the moistness, the freshness, that seems almost sacred. That sensation comes from countless leaves working together, releasing oxygen into the environment while absorbing carbon dioxide. The Amazon rainforest, often called the lungs of the earth, is only one example of this global process. But in truth, every green space, every grove of trees in your city, every patch of grass in a quiet park, is playing its part in breathing life into the world. The gift of oxygen does not come only from distant wilderness, it comes from the plants growing silently beside your home, outside your window, and even the small potted plant on your desk. And yet, what makes this truth even more humbling is its fragility. Oxygen feels eternal, but it depends on the survival of plants. If plants were to vanish, if forests were to be destroyed, if oceans were to lose their algae, oxygen would not disappear instantly, but within a few centuries, the atmosphere would become hostile once again. Life would begin to fade, gasping for the very breath that once seemed so abundant. This is why plants are not just beautiful ornaments of nature, they are guardians of survival, seen allies, holding up the very air you rely on. To protect them is to protect the invisible breath that flows through your body, the breath that keeps you alive at this very moment. Think too of the way plants connect us across time and space. The oxygen you inhale may have been released moments ago by a tree in your own city, or it may have come from algae drifting in oceans thousands of miles away. It may have been created this morning, or last night, or weeks ago, before the wind carried it to you. Oxygen molecules do not recognize boundaries or borders. They flow freely, uniting us all in a shared dependence on plants. In this way, a person breathing in Asia and a person breathing in Africa are connected by the same invisible stream of life. The breath in your lungs is not just yours. It is part of a shared cycle that binds together humans, animals, plants, oceans, and skies in a single living system. When you breathe slowly and deeply, you are taking part in this ancient partnership. Inhale, and you welcome the work of countless leaves, countless organisms stretching toward the sun. Exhale, and you return to them the carbon dioxide they need to continue. In this exchange, there is no hurry, no noise, no competition. There is only balance, harmony, and quiet rhythm. The plants do not remind you of what they give. They do not ask you to thank them. And yet, every moment of your existence depends on their generosity. When you look up at the sky on a clear day, you see the great glowing star that has always watched over our planet. The sun, so distant and yet so present, sends its light across space in steady waves, warming the ground, brightening the oceans, and touching the skin on your face. This light is ancient, traveling more than 90 million miles to reach you. In that long journey, it carries with it the energy that fuels life itself. But the sun does not hand this gift to us directly. Humans cannot eat sunlight, nor can animals drink it or store it away. It takes an intermediary, a translator of light into life. That translator is the green world, the leaves, the moss, the grass, the plankton, and the forests. Plants are the alchemists of sunlight, turning golden beams into nourishment, weaving the fabric of life from light that would otherwise remain unreachable. Photosynthesis is the name we give this quiet miracle. It is a long, gentle word, a word that carries the weight of life hidden in its syllables. Photosynthesis is the process by which plants capture sunlight and transform it into chemical energy, energy that they can store, use, and pass along to every other living thing on Earth. Without photosynthesis, the Earth would be barren. It is not just a process of chemistry, it is the very foundation of survival. It is the reason forests grow, the reason animals eat, the reason humans have food on their tables. And yet, despite its importance, it happens quietly, invisibly within the thin green surface of a leaf. If you were to look closely at a leaf, you might see the veins that run through it, tiny highways carrying water from the roots to the cells. Within the soft tissues of the leaf are microscopic structures called chloroplasts. These are like tiny factories filled with the green pigment chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is what allows plants to capture sunlight, to take photons of light energy and turn them into something more tangible. When sunlight strikes chlorophyll, it excites the electrons inside, starting a chain reaction that leads to the splitting of water molecules. From this splitting comes oxygen, released into the air, and hydrogen, which stays behind to build energy-rich molecules. At the same time, plants draw in carbon dioxide from the air. With the energy of sunlight, they combine carbon dioxide and hydrogen to form sugars, molecules that store energy in a stable, usable form. This simple sugar, glucose, becomes the foundation of food, not only for the plant, but for every organism that consumes plants, and every organism that consumes those organisms in turn. Pause for a moment and reflect on this quiet act. A tree, standing in the sunlight, is not simply existing, it is performing a cosmic transformation. It is taking light, which cannot be touched or tasted, and weaving it into matter, into substance, into the calories that keep life alive. The apple you bite into, the bread on your table, the vegetables that sustain your health, all of it is sunlight, captured and stored by plants in the form of sugars, starches, and fibers. Even meat, which may seem far removed from plants, is only possible because the animals we eat once fed on plants, drawing their energy from the same source. When you trace the chain of food back to its origin, it always leads to the green alchemists that first turned sunlight into substance. This transformation is not only a gift of energy, it is also a gift of balance. As plants perform photosynthesis, they take in carbon dioxide, one of the gases that can trap heat in the atmosphere. By removing carbon dioxide and storing it in their tissues, plants help to regulate Earth's climate, keeping it livable for all. Without this process, the Earth would be a much hotter, more hostile place, unable to sustain the diversity of life we see today. Through photosynthesis, plants quietly manage the balance of gases, ensuring that there is enough oxygen for breathing, enough carbon captured for stability, and enough energy stored to feed generations of life. Think of a single field in summer. The sun shines overhead, the air shimmers with warmth, and every blade of grass, every leaf on every tree, is engaged in this silent work. Millions upon millions of chloroplasts, each smaller than the tip of a pin, are acting in harmony, capturing light and storing energy. You cannot see it happen, and yet the evidence is everywhere in the growth of stems, in the blossoming of flowers, in the ripening of fruits. The energy stored in those plants is waiting to be shared, passed along, to the insects that feed on the leaves, the birds that eat the insects, and the humans that eventually consume the harvest. All of it, every bite, every calorie, is a fragment of sunlight transformed into food. Even the great forests of the earth, like the Amazon and the Congo, are immense engines of photosynthesis. Each day, they capture more sunlight than all the machines of humanity combined could ever dream of. These forests are vast, green solar panels, not built of steel or glass, but of leaves, countless leaves stretching toward the sky. They take in light without noise, without smoke, without pollution, and in return, they build the living systems that cradle our existence. When you stand in a forest, the air is filled with the products of photosynthesis: oxygen to breathe, shade to protect, fruits to nourish. It is a cathedral of green, built by the endless patience of plants working with the energy of the sun. The oceans, too, are alive with this process. Tiny organisms, phytoplankton, drift with the currents, capturing light near the surface. Though they are too small to see with the naked eye, their collective work is immense. These microscopic alchemists provide nearly half of the oxygen you breathe. They, too, are performing photosynthesis, turning beams of sunlight into the foundation of food chains that stretch across the seas. From the smallest fish to the largest whale, all ocean life depends on the energy first captured by these tiny drifting plants. Even the air above the ocean, The climate patterns that shape weather across continents are influenced by the photosynthetic work of plankton. What is remarkable is how effortless it seems. Plants do not struggle to capture light. They simply unfold their leaves, stretch toward the sky, and let the sunlight fall. Day after day, season after season, they repeat this process, unhurried and undemanding. Humans build power plants, machines that roar and burn to produce energy. But plants do it quietly, without heat, without noise, without destruction. In their patience, they have mastered a transformation that sustains all life, not just their own. They remind us that the most profound processes do not always announce themselves with grandeur. Sometimes, the greatest miracles unfold in silence, in the stillness of a green leaf drinking in the light of the sun. When you close your eyes and listen carefully to the world around you, you may notice the sound of water. It might be the soft dripping of rain on a window, the trickle of a stream in the distance, or the rhythm of your own breath echoing like waves inside your chest. Water has always been the quiet companion of life, flowing through every living being, shaping the surface of Earth, nourishing the smallest cell and the greatest forest. Without water, life cannot continue, even for a short time. And yet, the water that falls as rain, the water that fills rivers, lakes, and clouds, does not move aimlessly. It is guided, stored, and cycled by guardians we often overlook. Plants, with their deep roots and their green crowns, are the hidden water keepers, silently shaping the journey of every drop. Imagine a vast forest after rainfall. The canopy above is soaked, leaves dripping with shining beads of water that catch the light like tiny jewels. Beneath the canopy, the soil is damp but not flooded. The roots of trees and grasses hold the soil in place, drinking in what they need, while releasing the rest slowly back to streams and underground aquifers. If the plants were not there, the rain would hit the ground with harsh force, washing soil away, flooding valleys, and carrying nutrients out to sea. Instead, plants slow everything down. They absorb, they store, and they release, turning sudden rainfall into a gentle gift that lasts. The water cycle, something we learn about in school as a diagram of arrows, is not just an abstract system of evaporation, condensation, and precipitation. It is alive, pulsing through the living tissues of plants. When the sun warms the earth, water evaporates from oceans and lakes, rising into the air to form clouds. But on land, a significant share of that evaporation comes not from open water, but from plants themselves. Through tiny pores on their leaves, called stomata, plants release water vapor into the air in a process called transpiration. The steady exhalation of water creates moisture in the atmosphere, feeding cloud formation, and eventually influencing when and where rain will fall. A single large tree can release hundreds of liters of water into the air on a hot day. A whole forest acts like a giant fountain, pumping water skyward, creating its own weather, and keeping the cycle in motion. Now imagine standing in the Amazon rainforest. The air feels thick and humid, heavy with unseen droplets. This is not only because of the great rivers that carve their way through the land. It is because the forest itself is breathing water into the atmosphere, rising like invisible mist to form clouds above. Scientists call this phenomenon a flying river, an immense flow of vapor created by billions of leaves working together. The rains that fall across South America, feeding crops, filling reservoirs, and supporting cities, are partly born in this hidden work of trees. Without forests, rains would falter, droughts would deepen, and rivers would shrink. Plants are not passive passengers in the water cycle, they are its engineers. But their role as water keepers is not only about releasing moisture. Plants also act as guardians of the soil, holding water underground where it can be stored and purified. The roots of plants dig deep into the earth, sometimes stretching many meters below the surface. These roots act like sponges, soaking up water during wet times, and releasing it slowly during dry spells. In doing so, they prevent floods after heavy rains and sustain streams when no new rain falls. In landscapes stripped of vegetation, water rushes away quickly, carrying soil with it, leaving behind cracked earth and parched rivers. But in landscapes covered with plants, water lingers, seeps, and remains available to life long after the clouds have drifted away. Think for a moment about deserts. The Sahara, vast and golden, seems lifeless at first glance. Yet even there, plants survive, shaping the fate of water in ways we often overlook. Tiny desert shrubs catch dew from the morning air. Cacti store water within their thick stems, rationing it slowly across months of heat. In each case, plants act as water keepers, holding precious moisture in forms that animals and humans can later depend on. The desert may appear empty, but it is full of hidden reservoirs created by the persistence of plants. This adaptability reminds us that plants are not just passive recipients of water, they are active stewards, stretching the gift of water across time. If you travel to wetlands, the story is different, yet the theme remains. Marshes, swamps, and mangrove forests are living filters, where plants stand in water, absorbing impurities, slowing its flow, and returning it purified. Wetland plants are extraordinary keepers of balance, making sure that water remains clean enough to support fish, birds, insects, and human communities downstream. They prevent salt water from invading freshwater zones. They protect coastlines from storms, and they turn floods into gentle waves of nourishment. Without wetland plants, waters would become polluted, chaotic, and less able to sustain the delicate diversity of life that depends on them. On a planetary scale, the relationship between plants and water shapes climate itself. Where there are forests, rain falls more often. Where there are grasslands, rivers run steady. Where plants vanish, climates shift, becoming drier, harsher, less forgiving. Scientists have shown that deforestation can reduce rainfall not only in the region where trees are cut, but thousands of kilometers away, as atmospheric currents carry moisture across continents. The water keepers, silent and rooted, hold not just local streams but global patterns of rain and drought. They are conductors in a symphony of water that spans the entire Earth. In your own life, too, the presence of plants influences water in ways you may not notice. The shade of a tree keeps the ground cooler, reducing evaporation from the soil. The lawn outside your home captures rain, preventing streets from flooding. Even the potted plant on your windowsill is part of this hidden exchange, releasing small breaths of water vapor into the air around you. Each plant, no matter how small, contributes to the rhythm of water that sustains the living world. What makes this even more profound is how water and plants together sustain human survival. Every sip of water you take has been touched by plants. In some way, it has been filtered through roots, shaded by leaves, or carried by transpiration into the skies. Crops depend on the right timing of rainfall that is influenced by the forests and grasslands beyond the horizon. The glass of water on your table may seem simple, but it carries with it the unseen labor of millions of plants that managed it, purified it, and returned it to you. Close your eyes and imagine the gentle flow of a river. Picture the leaves swaying above, roots reaching down, grasses lining the banks. Imagine how each plant touches the water, slows it, shades it, and releases it again. This is the hidden partnership, a quiet dance between Earth's waters and Earth's green world. It is a dance that has been ongoing for millions of years, long before humans appeared, and it will continue as long as the plants remain the keepers of water's path. Breathe in slowly, and then exhale. The air leaving your body carries with it carbon dioxide, a gas so small and invisible that you cannot see it, cannot smell it, and cannot feel it drifting away. Yet this tiny gas is one of the most powerful forces shaping life on Earth. Every time you breathe, every fire that burns, every machine that runs, carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere. In small amounts, it is essential, part of the balance that keeps Earth warm enough to live on. But in large amounts, it becomes a weight, trapping too much heat, altering weather patterns, and disturbing the delicate rhythms of climate. For billions of years, the planet has relied on guardians to keep this balance steady. Those guardians are plants, the quiet carbon balancers, absorbing what we release, storing it safely, and maintaining the harmony of air and climate that makes life possible. To understand their role, you must first imagine a world without them. A planet without plants would have skies choked with carbon dioxide. The greenhouse effect, which traps warmth from the sun, would grow stronger and stronger until Earth became unbearably hot, its oceans boiling away, its surface barren. It is what happened on Venus, a neighboring planet, where carbon dioxide fills the atmosphere and temperatures soar high enough to melt lead. Earth avoided that fate because plants learned to pull carbon dioxide out of the air and lock it away, transforming it into food, wood, and soil. Through photosynthesis, they take in carbon dioxide, split its molecules apart, and use the carbon as a building block for their own bodies. Every leaf, every stem, every root is partly made of carbon that once floated invisibly in the sky. Without this steady work, Earth's atmosphere would be too heavy with carbon, and life as we know it would not survive. Imagine a forest in the height of summer. The leaves are wide and green, spread open like hands catching sunlight. As they drink in the light, they also draw in carbon dioxide through tiny openings called stomata. Each molecule is captured, processed, and transformed into sugars, which become the energy to grow new leaves, strengthen roots, and form the tall, sturdy trunk of a tree. In this way, carbon is pulled from the sky and stored in wood, sometimes for centuries, sometimes for thousands of years. A great oak tree is not just a living being, it is also a library of carbon, a vault holding onto what would otherwise drift through the air, trapping heat. Multiply this by the billions of trees across the planet, and you begin to see the immense scale of this quiet service. But plants do more than store carbon in their own tissues. They pass it into the soil. When leaves fall in autumn, when roots die back underground, when grasses wither and decompose, the carbon they once held sinks into the earth. Microorganisms break it down, some releasing it back to the air, but much of it becoming part of the soil itself, held in dark, rich organic matter. In prairies and forests, in wetlands and meadows, the soil becomes a hidden reservoir of carbon, built grain by grain over centuries. Without plants, soil would be barren dust, unable to hold such wealth of carbon or life. With plants, the ground beneath your feet becomes a living bank account, storing away the gas that would otherwise crowd the sky. Even in the oceans, plants are at work balancing carbon. Microscopic phytoplankton capture carbon dioxide from the water's surface, turning it into sugars just as land plants do. Some of this carbon feeds the entire food web of the sea. Some of it sinks to the deep ocean, carried down by dead plankton and tiny shells, where it can remain trapped for thousands of years. Sea grasses and kelp forests also play their role, creating underwater meadows that absorb carbon with quiet persistence. In fact, scientists now call these ecosystems blue carbon stores, recognizing their power to regulate the climate hidden beneath the waves. Think for a moment about your own daily life. Every time you drive a car, cook a meal, or switch on a light powered by fossil fuels, carbon dioxide is released. The numbers can feel overwhelming: billions of tons of carbon entering the atmosphere each year. And yet, silently, steadily, plants take in nearly a third of these emissions, buffering the damage, keeping the world livable. They are not able to absorb it all, which is why climate change accelerates. But without them, the problem would already be far beyond what humanity could endure. Plants are the balancing hand on the scale, pulling back against the weight of carbon we add each day. Forests, in particular, are immense allies in this balance. Tropical rainforests like the Amazon and Congo, temperate forests like those of North America and Europe, and boreal forests stretching across Russia and Canada all serve as vast carbon sinks. Every tree is a living pump, drawing carbon out of the sky and locking it into its wood. When forests grow, they remove carbon from the atmosphere. When forests are cut down or burned, that stored carbon is released back, undoing centuries of work in a single moment. This is why deforestation carries such weight for the climate. It is not only the loss of trees, but the release of their stored breath, their quiet work undone. Grasslands, too, play a role, often overlooked. Their strength is not in tall trunks, but in deep roots. Prairie grasses can reach down several meters underground, depositing carbon into soil where it remains stable and hidden for centuries. These ecosystems remind us that balancing carbon is not just about forests, but about the full diversity of plants, from the smallest mosses to the grandest redwoods. Each green blade participates in the same quiet rhythm of capture and storage. Even agriculture, though often criticized for emissions, is a testament to the power of plants as carbon balancers. Every crop we grow, from wheat to rice to corn, is a system that takes carbon from the air and places it into grains, fruits, and vegetables. The food on your table is built of carbon that once floated invisibly in the atmosphere. Every bite you eat is a reminder of how plants manage this cycle, balancing what enters and leaves the sky. If humans learn to farm in harmony with this natural process, enhancing the ability of soils to store carbon, then agriculture itself can become a great ally in stabilizing climate. The importance of this balance goes beyond science. It reaches into the experience of daily life. The warmth of seasons, the regularity of rainfall, the fertility of soil, the ability of oceans to cradle life, all of these depend on the unseen service of plants balancing carbon. Too much carbon in the sky, and storms grow stronger, droughts grow harsher, and seas rise higher. Plants cannot solve all of this alone, but they slow it, soften it, and hold back the edge of disaster. They give humanity time to adapt, time to change, time to recognize that balance is not a luxury, but a necessity for survival. Close your eyes for a moment and picture a single leaf on a tree. Watch it trembling gently in the breeze, catching the light of the sun, opening its pores to breathe in carbon dioxide. Imagine the gas entering, invisible yet real, broken apart, and rebuilt inside the leaf. Imagine the carbon becoming part of a sugar, stored away to fuel growth. That single leaf, so small, is one of billions, each performing the same task, each a quiet worker in the grand balancing act of Earth. Together, they form a system vast enough to shape the climate of a planet, to soften the breath of humanity, to hold steady the fragile rhythm of air that sustains us all. When you sit down for a meal, perhaps you do not always stop to wonder where the food before you truly comes from. A slice of bread, a bowl of rice, a piece of fruit, or even a glass of milk feels so ordinary, so immediate, as if it simply appeared to satisfy hunger. But if you look deeper, beneath the surface of every plate, you find a single truth. It all begins with plants. They are the architects of nourishment, weaving the web of food that supports every living creature on Earth. Whether you are eating vegetables, grains, meat, or fish, the trail of energy always leads back to the silent, patient work of plants. They are the starting point of life's grand menu, the quiet providers who make every bite possible. Plants begin this chain because of their gift of photosynthesis, capturing sunlight and storing it as sugar, starch, and fiber. These simple molecules are the foundation of energy. A blade of grass standing in a meadow does more than just sway in the wind. It is a storehouse of sunlight transformed into food. Herbivores come nibbling, grazing, consuming that energy. A deer feeds on leaves, a cow chews on grass, a rabbit gnaws at stems, each one taking in the calories created by plants. But the story does not end with them. Carnivores, the hunters, survive by eating those herbivores, and in doing so, they too are feeding on the sunlight that plants once caught. The great predator, the soaring eagle, the prowling lion, the shark. In the sea, all of them exist because plants first built the food that allowed their prey to live. Without plants, the chain collapses. Without plants, the web is broken. Think about grains for a moment. Wheat, rice, corn, oats. These are grasses, evolved to store energy in seeds. Humans learned long ago to cultivate them, turning vast landscapes into fields of grain. Each kernel is a compact package of starch, carefully assembled by the plant from sunlight and air. When you eat bread, or pasta, or rice, you are eating sunlight condensed into a form your body can use. Generations of humans built civilizations. On this foundation, entire cultures rising from the abundance of grains. The pyramids of Egypt, the cities of Mesopotamia, the empires of Asia, all were nourished by the energy plants captured and stored. The very story of human progress is written in fields of crops. Now think of fruits. A tree produces apples, oranges, or peaches not for humans, but for its own survival. The sweet flesh exists to attract animals, who eat the fruit and carry its seeds far away, spreading the tree's future. But in doing so, plants also gave humans one of the most delightful sources of food. Every berry and every melon is a gift of energy, wrapped in flavor, designed to tempt, to entice, to ensure the continuation of life. The crisp bite of an apple, the burst of juice from a grape, the smooth sweetness of a mango, all of it is a story of plants offering nourishment in exchange for the service of spreading their seeds. It is a partnership written not in words, but in taste. Even the foods that seem farthest from plants still carry their imprint. Consider milk. It flows from animals, yet those animals ate grass, hay, or grains before transforming plant energy into nourishment. The calcium and protein in milk were first drawn from soil by roots, carried upward into leaves, digested by cows, and passed into the milk we drink. The same is true for cheese, butter, and yogurt, each one a plant's gift, passed along through the body of an animal. Meat, too, is plant energy transformed. The beef on a plate, the chicken in a stew, the fish in the sea, all are nourished first by plants or by creatures that consume plants. The chain always begins the same way, with a green leaf, a patch of algae, a kernel of grain in the oceans. The story is no different. Tiny phytoplankton captures sunlight near the surface, just as trees capture it on land. They are eaten by small creatures like krill, which in turn are eaten by fish, which feed larger fish, seals, and whales. Even the largest animals on Earth, the blue whales, feed on krill, which depend entirely on plankton. Imagine a creature the size of several buses, weighing as much as hundreds of tons, sustained by the smallest of plants drifting in the sea. This is the beauty of the web of life. From the microscopic to the monumental, all are tied together by plants. The web is not simply a straight line of who eats whom. It is an intricate network woven across ecosystems, linking creatures in surprising ways. A forest, for example, feeds not only the deer that graze beneath it, but also the insects that nibble its leaves, the fungi that feed on its fallen wood, and the predators that come seeking prey among the trees. Each participant in this web owes its survival to the plants that started the chain. Even decomposers, the beetles, worms, and microbes that break down dead matter, depend on the carbon that plants first captured. In their work, they return nutrients to the soil, which plants use again, completing the cycle. Nothing is wasted. Nothing stands alone. It is all one vast, interconnected system, anchored by plants. Human culture is deeply woven into this web as well. Our diets, traditions, and cuisines reflect the plants available in different regions. Rice in Asia, maize in the Americas, wheat in Europe and the Middle East. These staples not only fed people, but shaped economies, languages, and rituals. Spices like cinnamon, pepper, and saffron were once worth more than gold, changing the course of exploration and trade. Coffee, tea, and cacao plants transformed into drinks and chocolate have shaped societies and histories. Each one is a thread in the web of food and life, connecting plants to human identity and memory. And beyond nourishment, plants provide the diversity that makes food a joy rather than just survival. The colors of vegetables, the scents of herbs, the textures of grains, all of it is the artistry of plants. Basil releasing its aroma, lavender flavoring honey, saffron staining dishes. Golden plants do not just feed the body, they feed the senses, shaping culture and comfort, celebration and ritual. The act of eating becomes more than a biological need. It becomes a shared moment of connection, a reminder that we are all tied to the same green foundation. When you eat, you are not only consuming calories, you are participating in the ancient web that stretches across land and sea, across centuries of evolution, across the entire living world. Every bite is a story of sunlight, soil, and roots. Every taste is a reminder of the patient labor of plants, building food from light, weaving energy into forms that sustain animals, humans, and entire ecosystems. Close your eyes and imagine this web stretching outward, leaves feeding deer, grass feeding cattle, plankton feeding fish, grains feeding civilizations, fruits feeding generations. All of it connected, all of it resting on the quiet work of plants, the weavers of the web of food and life. For as long as humans have walked the earth, we have turned to plants not only for food and shelter, but also for healing. Long before there were laboratories, hospitals, or pharmacies, there were forests, meadows, and gardens, each one holding remedies hidden in roots, leaves, barks, and blossoms. Plants are not only the weavers of food and air, they are the keepers of medicine, carrying inside them the chemistry of survival. They have defended themselves against insects, fungi, and disease for millions of years, and in doing so, they created compounds that humans discovered could ease pain, fight infections, calm the mind, and restore balance. Plants are the natural medicine chest of the world, offering cures written in green, stored in silence, waiting to be unlocked. Imagine a healer thousands of years ago, standing at the edge of a forest, watching the way animals behaved. Perhaps she noticed that a sick deer chewed on willow bark, or that a wounded bird pecked at certain leaves. By observing, by experimenting, humans learned which plants could soothe fever, which could close wounds, which could ease breathing. This ancient knowledge was passed down through generations, woven into traditions, songs, and rituals. Entire systems of medicine, Ayurveda in India, traditional Chinese medicine, the herbal traditions of Africa, Europe, and the Americas were built on the wisdom of plants. Long before science gave names to molecules, people trusted the language of leaves and roots, listening to the subtle ways plants could restore life. One of the most famous examples is the willow tree. For centuries, healers used willow bark to reduce pain and lower fevers. Later, scientists discovered that the bark contained salicin, a chemical that the body converts into salicylic acid, the basis of aspirin, one of the most widely used medicines in the world. What began as a tree's natural defense became humanity's relief from headaches, fevers, and inflammation. In this way, plants became partners in our survival, their own chemistry blending with our biology. Consider the foxglove, with its tall stalks and purple flowers swaying in summer wind. It is beautiful, but also dangerous, for it contains digitalis, a powerful compound that can affect the heart. In the hands of skilled healers and scientists, digitalis became a life-saving drug for people with heart conditions, stabilizing rhythms and prolonging lives. The same plant that could kill in the wrong dose became a protector in the right one. This duality reminds us that plants are not passive gifts. They are complex beings with powerful chemistry, demanding respect and knowledge. The rosy periwinkle, a small flowering plant from Madagascar, holds another secret. From its leaves and stems, scientists isolated compounds that became crucial in treating leukemia and Hodgkin's lymphoma. These plant-derived medicines turned once fatal diseases into conditions with hope for recovery. A humble flower easily overlooked, carried inside it a cure that has saved countless children and adults around the world. In this way, the quiet persistence of plants has altered the course of human destiny. Even the ancient spice turmeric, with its golden glow, has long been known for its healing properties. Used for thousands of years in Indian medicine and cooking, turmeric contains curcumin, a compound with anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects. Modern science has confirmed what tradition long suspected, that this root can soothe the body, reduce swelling, and support healing. Here, again, the line between food and medicine blurs, reminding us that every meal, every spice, every sip of tea can be part of a greater rhythm of care. Plants also heal not only the body, but the mind. Lavender, with its soft purple blossoms, has long been used to calm anxiety and encourage sleep. Chamomile, a small daisy-like flower, is brewed into teas that soothe nerves and ease digestion. Tea, John's wort, bright with yellow flowers, has been used to lift moods and ease melancholy. These plants do not only treat physical pain, but also support the fragile balance of human emotions, offering comfort in times of restlessness, sadness, or sleeplessness. And then there are the great medicines of the modern age, born from plants. Quinine, derived from the bark of the cinchona tree, was once the only effective treatment for malaria, saving millions from one of humanity's deadliest diseases. Morphine, drawn from the opium poppy, has been used to relieve severe pain, allowing patients to find rest where suffering once dominated. Even chemotherapy drugs like paclitaxel come from plants, in this case the bark of the Pacific yew tree. Again and again, plants have provided the raw materials that science refines, shaping some of the most powerful treatments in medicine. But beyond specific cures, plants themselves embody healing through their presence. A walk in a forest, known in Japan as forest bathing, has been shown to reduce stress, lower blood pressure, and calm the nervous system. The air itself in forests is filled with compounds released by trees' phytoncides that boost the immune system when inhaled. To breathe in the scent of pine, to stand among eucalyptus, to feel the shade of ancient oaks, is to take part in a medicine older than humanity. The healing is not only in the leaves we crush or the teas we brew, but in the entire experience of being surrounded by living plants. Even in modern hospitals, plants are invited inside. A window view of trees has been shown to speed recovery for patients after surgery. Gardens in healthcare settings provide peace, reduce pain perception, and give hope. It is as if our bodies recognize the presence of plants, remembering the long partnership, responding with relief and restoration. The natural medicine chest is not only chemical, it is also emotional, spiritual, and sensory. Think of the spices in your kitchen, the herbs in your garden, the teas in your cupboard. Basil, rosemary, peppermint, ginger all carry within them compounds that soothe digestion, ease inflammation, or awaken the senses. You may not think of them as medicine, but every culture has used them as both flavor and cure. Plants blur the line between nourishment and healing, between eating and treatment. They remind us that health is not separate from life, but woven into the same green web that feeds us, shelters us, and keeps us breathing. Close your eyes now and imagine walking through a meadow at dawn. Dew sparkles on the grasses, wildflowers release their scents into the cool air, and the hum of bees carries softly across the silence. Around you are remedies you may not even recognize: roots that could lower fevers, flowers that could calm pain, leaves that could ease your breath. The meadow is not only beautiful, it is a living pharmacy, one that does not charge, does not demand, does not even speak, but quietly offers healing to those who listen and learn. From forests to fields, from oceans to gardens, plants carry the wisdom of survival in their chemistry, offering it freely to those who seek it. They are the keepers of balance, the healers of wounds, the calmers of storms within the body and the mind. The natural medicine chest is vast, and though we have only opened a fraction of its drawers, we already know enough to understand that our health and their presence are forever intertwined. Beneath our feet lies a hidden world, one that often goes unnoticed because we rarely stop to think about the ground itself. We walk on it, we build on it, we plant in it, but the soil is far more than dirt. It is alive, a mixture of minerals, air, water, and the countless remains of living things that came before us. Soil is the foundation of our food, the skin of the planet, the silent stage on which the play of life unfolds. And at the heart of protecting this fragile layer of earth are plants. Without them, the soil would wash away, dry out, and lose its ability to sustain life. Plants are the guardians of the ground, the protectors of soil and earth. Think for a moment about rain falling on a bare hillside. With no plants to shield it, the raindrops strike the soil directly, loosening particles, washing them downhill, carrying away nutrients that took centuries to form. In time, the hillside becomes barren, the streams choked with mud, and the land can no longer feed or hold life. But now imagine the same hillside covered in grasses, shrubs, or trees. Each raindrop lands first on leaves, branches, and stems, its energy softened before reaching the soil. Roots spread beneath the surface, binding the soil together like threads of a woven cloth. The water is absorbed slowly, trickling into the ground instead of rushing away. What could have been destruction becomes balance. Because plants are standing guard, roots are perhaps the most underestimated protectors of Earth. Some spread wide and shallow, like those of grasses, forming dense mats that hold the uppermost soil in place. Others plunge deep, like the roots of trees, reaching far below to anchor not just themselves, but the stability of entire landscapes. Together, roots act like the stitching on a great fabric, preventing the land from unraveling. Even the smallest tuft of grass on a slope can prevent erosion that might otherwise scar the earth. Across prairies, forests, and fields, roots are constantly at work, quietly defending the soil against the forces of wind, water, and time. Plants also build the soil, adding to it in ways we rarely notice. Every autumn, leaves fall to the ground, breaking down slowly, returning nutrients to the earth. Dead roots decompose beneath the surface, creating channels that allow air and water to move through the soil, keeping it alive and fertile. In forests, a thick layer of fallen needles, leaves, and branches forms what is known as the leaf litter, a blanket that protects the soil from drying out, while feeding the microbes and fungi that turn decay into renewal. In this way, plants not only protect the soil, they create and enrich it, turning lifeless rock into fertile ground over generations. There are places in the world where we can see this partnership in its most dramatic form. Consider the vast grasslands of Africa or the prairies of North America. Here, grasses with deep, fibrous roots have built some of the richest soils on Earth. For thousands of years, these roots have died and regrown season after season, layering organic matter into the soil, forming what farmers call black gold, a fertile base that can support crops for centuries. Without the endless work of grasses, these fertile regions would not exist. The soil itself is a gift from plants, formed by their persistence and patience. Plants also protect against the wind. In deserts, where vegetation is scarce, winds can whip across the land, carrying dust for hundreds of miles, stripping away what little fertility remains. But where shrubs, trees, or even small plants take root, they act as barriers, breaking the force of the wind, slowing its erosion, and keeping the soil intact. In some regions, people deliberately plant windbreaks, rows of trees and bushes, designed to shield farmland from blowing away. These living barriers show, once again, how plants serve as guardians, preserving the foundation on which human life depends. Beyond physical protection, plants also heal soil that has been damaged or depleted. Certain plants, known as nitrogen fixers, have the ability to take nitrogen from the air and convert it into a form that enriches the ground. Legumes like beans, peas, and clover partner with microscopic bacteria in their roots, creating natural fertilizer for the soil. Over time, these plants restore fertility to worn-out land, making it possible for other plants to grow again. They act like healers, stitching nutrients back into the earth's fabric, repairing wounds left by overuse or neglect. Forests are perhaps the most powerful examples of soil protection in action. In a healthy forest, nearly every part of the system is designed to safeguard the ground. The canopy shields soil from harsh sunlight and heavy rain. Roots weave through every layer of earth, holding it firm. Leaf litter protects against dryness, while fungi and microorganisms recycle nutrients back into the soil. Even fallen trees contribute, slowly decomposing and releasing minerals as they return to the ground. A forest is not just a collection of trees. It is a vast machine of protection, stability, and renewal, keeping the earth beneath it alive and resilient. When humans remove plants, when forests are cut down, when grasslands are overgrazed, when fields are left bare, the soil suffers, erosion accelerates, fertility declines, and deserts spread. History carries many lessons of civilizations that fell not only because of war or disease, but because their soils were exhausted. The great farmlands of Mesopotamia, once fertile, turns salty and barren after years of irrigation without replenishment. The Dust Bowl of the 1930s in North America saw millions of tons of soil blown away because grasses had been plowed under and replaced by crops without protection. These stories remind us that soil, though it feels solid, is fragile, and that plants are its only true guardians. Even today, efforts to restore the earth often begin with planting. Reforestation projects, the replanting of mangroves along coastlines, the sowing of cover crops on farmlands, all are ways to bring back the protective power of plants. Each seed placed in the ground is a small act of defense against erosion, desertification, and decline. By giving plants space to grow, we invite them to do what they have always done: shield the soil, heal it, and make it fertile once more. On a quiet walk, if you pause and look at the ground beneath trees or grasses, you may notice how alive it seems. Ants building tunnels, earthworms moving soil, fungi spreading threads, roots reaching down. All of this activity is made possible because plants hold the system together. Without plants, the soil would be lifeless dust. With them, it becomes a thriving, dynamic ecosystem, constantly renewing itself, always preparing the stage for new life to appear. Close your eyes and imagine standing in a forest after a gentle rain. The soil beneath your feet is dark, rich, and soft, filled with the scent of earth. That richness is not accidental, it is the result of countless leaves falling, roots growing, and plants protecting the ground year after year. Every step you take is cushioned by the quiet work of plants that have held the soil in place, enriched it with their remains, and sheltered it with their presence. The ground itself, so often overlooked, is alive because plants have chosen to guard it, to protect the delicate balance that sustains us all. If you have ever walked through an old forest, you may have felt something unusual in the air, something beyond the coolness of shade or the rustle of leaves. There is a sense of presence, of quiet wisdom, as if the trees around you have been watching for centuries, silently holding memories of the world long before you arrived. Plants, especially trees, are more than just living organisms. They are timekeepers. They are the companions of time itself, standing still while the years flow past them like a river. They witness generations of humans come and go, civilizations rise and fall, climates shift, and seasons repeat endlessly. In their silence, they carry the memory of Earth. Consider the life of a tree. A single oak may live for hundreds of years. A redwood or a bristlecone pine may stand for thousands. While our human lives move in decades, theirs stretch across centuries. The tree you pass on a trail today may have already been tall when your great-grandparents were children, and it may still be here when your great-grandchildren are old. This contrast between our brief existence and the long patience of trees reminds us of the scale of time that plants inhabit. They do not rush. They grow slowly, season by season, year by year, adding rings of wood that mark the passing of time like the pages of an unwritten book. If you were to look inside the trunk of an old tree, you would find a story written in circles. Each ring tells of a year, wide rings for wet and abundant seasons, narrow rings for drought and hardship. These rings hold the memory of climate, rainfall, and change. Dendrochronologists, scientists who study tree rings, can look back through centuries, even thousands of years, reading the stories trees have recorded. Through their bodies, trees have quietly archived history, years of plenty, years of struggle, years of transformation. They are more than plants. They are living libraries of time. But the companionship of plants with time is not only about their long lives. It is also about their rhythm, the endless cycle of growth, decay, and renewal that reflects the heartbeat of Earth itself. Each spring, plants awaken, sending out new shoots, unfolding leaves, and painting the land with green. Summer brings abundance, flowers, and fruit, the height of life's expression. Autumn turns leaves into fire-colored tapestries, signaling the gradual return of energy back to the roots. Winter brings rest, dormancy, and silence. And then the cycle begins again. Through these cycles, plants teach us about patience, about renewal, about the acceptance of time's passage. Plants are also reminders that time is not uniform for all life. While a mayfly may live for only a day, and humans for less than a century, a sequoia may live for 3,000 years. For the tree, one of our lifetimes is but a breath, a single moment in its vast existence. Imagine standing in the shadow of such a tree and realizing that it has stood in the same place for millennia, watching as empires rose and crumbled, as languages were born and forgotten, as entire species came and went. The tree does not move, but in its stillness it has traveled across the ages, a witness to the great unfolding of time. Even the smallest plants carry time within them. A seed may lie dormant for years, even decades, waiting for the right conditions to sprout. Some seeds, buried in permafrost or sealed within desert sands, have been known to awaken after thousands of years, carrying the genetic memory of ancient ecosystems. When they sprout, it is as if the past itself has returned, as though time folded upon itself to release a forgotten whisper of life. These seeds remind us that plants are not only alive in the present, but also connected to deep time, capable of bridging centuries with a single spark of growth. In human culture, we have always sensed this timelessness in plants. We plant trees to mark births, to honor marriages, to remember those who have passed away. We recognize, perhaps unconsciously, that plants outlast us, that they are the guardians of memory. In villages and cities across the world, there are ancient trees that serve as gathering places, landmarks, and symbols of endurance. Beneath their branches, generations have told stories, celebrated rituals, and sought shelter. These trees become more than individuals. They become companions to communities, anchors in the flow of time. Plants also remind us that time is cyclical, not just linear. For them, death is not an end but a return. A fallen tree decays, but in doing so, it feeds the soil, nourishes fungi, and creates space for new seedlings. A field of wildflowers blooms, fades, and returns again the following year, each cycle layered upon the last. Through these rhythms, plants show us that time is not only a march forward, but also a circle, a spiral of renewal that holds both endings and beginnings within it. The companionship plants share with time is also evident in how they respond to the slowest of Earth's changes. When glaciers retreat, plants are the first to colonize the bare rock, beginning the process of turning stone into soil. When deserts shift, hardy plants endure, holding on through centuries of drought. When volcanoes erupt and cover the land in ash, it is plants that eventually reclaim the barren ground, setting the stage for life's return. They move with patience, adapting not to days or years, but to centuries and millennia. They embody a scale of time that humans can barely comprehend. On a smaller scale, the companionship between plants and time touches our own daily lives. A cup of tea, brewed from leaves, carries the energy of months of sunlight captured in the plant. The wooden beams of a house may hold centuries within their grain. The fruits and vegetables we eat are the result of a patient unfolding of growth, a journey through weeks and months before arriving at our table. Even the paper on which books are written is made from trees that lived for decades, perhaps longer. Every moment we touch plants, we are touching time itself, condensed into form. And yet, perhaps the greatest lesson plants give us about time is stillness. They do not hurry. They do not strive to escape the moment. They stand rooted, embracing the slow unfolding of days and years, embodying a kind of patience that is foreign to us, but deeply comforting. To sit beneath a tree, to watch the swaying of its branches, is to be reminded that there is no need to rush, that time will carry us forward whether we move quickly or slowly. Plants invite us to rest, to breathe, to experience time not as a pressure, but as a companion. Imagine lying down in a meadow, the grass gently swaying above you, the sunlight filtered through the leaves of nearby trees. The plants around you have been here before you arrived, and they will remain long after you leave. They are not anxious about time. They simply exist within it, harmonizing with its flow, reminding us that time is not something to conquer, but something to dwell within, peacefully and fully. To share space with plants is to share space with time itself, with companions who have walked beside Earth for hundreds of millions of years and will continue long after our brief stories have been told. As we come to the end of this gentle journey, let us pause and remember the quiet truth we have uncovered together. Plants are not just background scenery in our world. They are the unseen foundations of life itself. From the oxygen that fills our lungs, to the food that nourishes us, to the water cycle that sustains our landscapes, they weave the very fabric of existence. They transform the light of the sun into energy, balance the breath of our planet, and hold the soil beneath our feet. They heal us, protect us, feed us, and even guide us in our relationship with time. Without them, there is no life as we know it. With them, there is color, balance, renewal, and harmony. In every leaf, every blade of grass, every towering tree, there is a reminder that life is interconnected, that nothing stands alone, and that survival is not built on force, but on cooperation, patience, and quiet resilience. So tonight, as you drift into rest, you can imagine the green presence of the earth all around you, the forests breathing with you, the roots holding the ground steady beneath you, the silent companions of time stretching their branches into the sky above you. You are part of their story, just as they are part of yours, and in this stillness, you may feel the calm assurance that life continues, that the cycles turn gently on, and that the plants of our world will keep holding us, breathing with us, and making life possible. Long after this moment fades into dreams,